Hello and welcome to our video today. My name's Diana Bernard and I'm the Manager of Education Projects here at Seniors Rights Service. And in our studio today we have Margaret Crothers, Manager of our Regional Advocacy Services. This session is for all aged care staff and we're going to cover a range of topics: what advocacy is, how Seniors Rights Service advocacy works in particular, especially in relation to the new Charter of Rights, and why you might refer to our service or a similar service in another state. So Marg, do you want to talk about what an advocate is and what they do, please?
Yes, certainly. An advocate's role is really just a facilitator, a communicator. We help people to understand the situation. We help with clarification. I think that's really important when we're working with older people. Sometimes they don't understand rules, regulations, why things are happening. It's very important for families as well, because often families are not too sure whether they've been given the right information, and we're able to support the families and say, yes, that is the right information, or no, that's not the right information, and then help them with just approaches and things to say if they are talking to the aged care staff or the managers of an aged care home, just to reassure them that they're on the right track. With older people, we could also be a voice. I think that's really important. Sometimes they're just tired and they don't want to speak for themselves. Sometimes they don't understand the problem and we're able to clarify it and then offer to speak on their behalf. So they're probably the two main roles of an advocate: to clarify issues and then offer to assist if needed, or give the information that's needed to go and tackle the issue with the aged care provider.
Yeah. And is Seniors Rights Service different to other types of advocacy?
Very different. We only deal with aged care services. Some of you may be familiar with disability services, those sorts of different advocacy services. There are a number of them around. But what we are specifically funded to do is to support the recipients of aged care in particular. So that is something that a lot of family members don't understand. They'll ring us up and say, what are our rights? And we have to say, well, no, you don't have rights. It's your mum or your dad or the aged care recipient. And you are just assisting them to exercise those rights. I suppose another important thing that we need to look at is, when it comes to rights, is that we have to make sure that the people who receive aged care recognise that the staff have rights too. They have the right to be supported to be able to do their jobs properly, to provide care. And a couple more things is that it's really important that people who do have concerns, who would like someone to assist them with issues, that they contact us early. Sometimes we'll go out to a meeting with an aged care recipient or their family member and an aged care staff, and we find that the issue is 12 months old and it could have been resolved a long time earlier and, saved a lot of angst. So we really do encourage aged care providers to call us in, or people who receive aged care services to call us in. And I suppose the other thing about our service is that we are independent. Quite often the older person or the family member has been told the right information, but they're a little bit suspicious because it's coming from the provider.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we just reassure them, no, you've been told what is right. And so therefore we could support people in that way as well.
Oh, that sounds great. And what about the Charter of Rights, aged care rights? How does that fit in with the work of the regular staff?
Look, it's just so important. It really is. It should be every part of your day when you work with older people. Their rights are paramount, and it fits really, really nicely in with the new standards, because the older person now is the middle of the wheel. It's person-centred care. And so if we look at the rights are just basically how the older person wants to live or should be allowed to live. And so it's really important that the staff consider the rights at all times. It would be a good idea if we actually look closely at one of the rights.
Yeah.
The number 7 is a good example of that, because it's inclusive of a number of the rights with choice and decision making, and that's what the standards are all about as well. And so if people are caring in the same and considering rights in the same approach, then they will get it right, because they will be thinking about what the older person needs and providing those needs. Another thing I like about the new charter is that it is actually an agreement between the aged care provider and the older person now. It used to just be an addendum to the Act, but now it's an actual agreement. And I think that holds a lot more weight, and it does put more of a responsibility on the aged care staff, because their organisation has agreed that they will uphold the rights of the older person. There's one right in particular that I think we need to address, and sometimes we could say it's a bit of an elephant in the room for some staff members, and that is the right to take risks. And it's something that we're probably all a little bit guilty of, that we like to cotton ball the older person to encompass them in something that's soft and protective, and that's a lot of the way we've been looking at it. You know, we've really used duty of care as an important responsibility. But a lot of recent research and the ABC program, what was it called? The one where
with the 4-year-olds?
Yes. That was a classic example of, allowing older people to take limited risks. They weren't great risks, but just the impact that it had on their lives and their whole emotional well-being was phenomenal. And I think we as advocates and the care staff need to be looking at that. And if we think about the way we live, all our life we're encouraged to do things that we enjoy, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
And we're encouraged to follow our interests. And then all of a sudden when we go into aged care, we're told, oh no, you can't do that. Oh no, you can't do that. But I reckon if we asked a whole lot of older people, they would give up a year to have half a day of doing something that was exciting and interesting and for them. And so, we do. For us here at Seniors Rights Service, it's something we're thinking a lot about, which is allowing the older person to follow what they are interested in, and also to just take the odd risk that gives their life just that little bit of pizzazz. Yeah. And who wouldn't want that?
Exactly. And hopefully doing something about those depression rates that we often hear about.
Exactly. And mobility and a whole stack of things. I've heard of family members stopping their father walking because they're frightened that he'll fall over and hit his head. Yeah. But he loved to walk. So it's almost saying you might as well take his leg off. I mean, exactly. it's cruel to stop someone doing something that they really enjoy. And that's actually a good point, because it brings us to the fact is, who are we protecting this older person for? Is it for ourselves or is it for them? And more often than not, the honest answer is we're doing it for ourselves. And really, the whole aged care system now is turning around and saying, let's not think about just us. Let's think about the older person, what they want and their rights.
And what about older people at home? Do we do anything for them as well?
Oh, yeah. Our advocacy service covers the whole gamut of aged care, so Commonwealth Home Support, home care packages and residential aged care. It's a good question, because a lot of people think it's only just residential aged care, but it's not. And I think probably about 50% of our calls now come from home care recipients or Commonwealth Home Support recipients, which is still not the right balance, because there's more people receiving home care than there are in residential care. But obviously, people in home care are living in their own situation, so they may be a little bit more comfortable. They've got one-on-one relationships with the staff who come in. And so most of their complaints tend to be about bills or staff being late or something like that. So, but we still do advocate for older people who receive home care services.
Oh, that's terrific. And where do we operate? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, whole of New South Wales. Yeah. There's our equivalent in every state. We're under the Older Persons Advocacy Network banner, but we operate as Seniors Rights Service in New South Wales, as we have for many years. And our job as advocates, and my job as a regional advocate manager or coordinator, is to make sure that we get out to every part of the state and we offer the services as far and wide as we possibly can. And that has been a real addition to our services, because previously if we just operated from Sydney and it was very hard for regional people to get face-to-face assistance, but we are now available to come and speak to you face-to-face if you need us. Otherwise, you can call us.
So, Marg, why do you think in particular should someone refer to Seniors Rights Advocacy Service?
Yeah, well, staff in particular we often advise, or we do advise you do that, because it could be a conflict of interest for you. I mean, on a daily basis, you probably casually advocate for an older person. If you see they've got an issue, you would assist them. But if it's a major issue, you don't want to be taking on your own employer or another member of staff. And so, it's important for you as a staff member that you follow your own organisation's protocols. And so rather than you take on an issue that could get you into trouble or could create a conflict of interest, if you call in an advocate, then an advocate could do exactly what you would do, which is to make sure that the older person has got someone to speak for them and to help them. And you have helped them in that way, but you haven't jeopardised your own position. So that's really important. The same with family members as well. It's very good if you see a family member who has issues, refer them to us and we can assist the family member to pursue those issues with the aged care provider. So if you do refer a family member, it's really important to do so because the residents are informed about our services. The residents have control over their lives. The residents are treated fairly and can exercise their rights because we are independent. And the residents can make a complaint without fear of reprisal because they have us to support them.
So I think that's a really helpful summary for staff. But you might be wondering how people get to know about us. And we come out and do education on request. Obviously, in the time of COVID, we've been doing education by other means, so by video, webinar. We can do Zoom education. So please look at our website, www.seniorsrightsservice.org.au. Or ring our 1-800 number, 1-800-424-079 and ask to speak with an advocate, or you can book in for an education information session at any time or make an inquiry about any aspects of those. And we also have a legal service that you can ring us about. Thank you.